Monkeys, together with apes, are our closest relatives. They have the richest social life of all mammals, and much of their time is spent establishing relationships between one another and climbing the social ladder. And that has had some remarkable consequences. South America, and a few capuchin monkeys are having a morning get-together. Capuchins are very like the earliest of all monkeys, judging from fossils. The basic pattern, you might say. Their grasping hands and gripping tails enable them to race through the forest with astonishing speed and agility. But it's their big brains that really give them an edge. If there's one thing that's characteristic of monkeys, it's their ability to spot an opportunity and then exploit it. And of none is that more so than these capuchins. Of course, they'll grab a ripe fruit if they see one, but they investigate everything in their path. Little escapes. But it's their inquisitiveness that really impresses you when you follow them. They look for food everywhere. Their colour vision is excellent. Their sense of smell, however, is no better than ours. So to find food that's hidden from view, they use not their noses, but their brains. They can clearly imagine what might be lurking beneath dry leaves. Out of sight for them is by no means out of mind. A good memory must also help. Recalling a previous experience could make the difference between getting stung and getting honey. The troop is just entering these mangroves. Most mammals wouldn't find anything much to eat here, but the monkey's big brain enables them to find things that others miss. Only the bolder ones chance their hand with crabs. It's quite brave to tackle sharp claws with delicate fingers. The retreating tide also exposes shellfish, but eating those poses more problems. The clams are certainly full of meat, but it's all locked up behind closed doors. However, grasping hands, guided by a big brain, can deal with that problem. These clams are very tough. I'd have a lot of difficulty in opening them myself. But these monkeys have learned that if you hit them hard enough and long enough, the clam relaxes, the shells can be opened, and they can get at the juicy meat inside. The whole troop are in on the trick, and now at least 20 of them are busy giving the clams the treatment. 10 minutes on, and the shells of the clams are still tightly clenched. This is hardly fast food. Most will eventually learn how to do it, so that the technique of clam cracking will be passed to the next generation. But it takes years for a young monkey to get it absolutely right. Patience is important. Unfortunately, so is technique. Capuchins, just like us, have varied personalities and abilities, and some never really get to grips with clam cracking. Those with a good technique and perseverance are now beginning to collect their rewards. Although some aren't exactly thrilled by what they find. It's not just food that monkeys collect from the forest. These two bunches of leaves may look very much the same, but this kind is used by the local people as an antiseptic. They also use it as an insect repellent, whereas this one has no medicinal qualities at all. If I put them both down here, I think I know which the monkeys will choose. The ones with the insect-repelling sap. Piper is usually hard to find, so this big bunch will cause a lot of excitement. Like many things in monkey life, Piper rubbing is a major social event. Those taking part disregard the differences they might have had at other times, and everyone joins in the party. Do these capuchin really know that this behaviour protects them against skin infections and mosquitoes? Well, of course, it's impossible to say. But it is the case that they do it more frequently during the rainy season, when there are more skin infections and mosquitoes around than at any other time during the year. Not all capuchins use Piper, but once an individual discovers the plant's properties, the knowledge quickly spreads, so Piper leaf rubbing becomes a group tradition. Capuchins eat most things. Some monkeys, however, have particular specialities. These are wakaras, and they will eat fruit of an unusual kind. The colour of their faces indicates their social position. The brighter the scarlet, the more senior the animal. And the excellent colour vision that enables them to tell where they are socially also helps them to select their fruit. Unusually, sakis are able to eat fruits that are a vivid green and not yet fully ripe. The monkeys in this forest can all eat slightly different foods, allowing many species to live together side by side. The saki has special teeth, which enable it to eat nuts that no other monkey can crack. The spider monkey has long limbs and a grasping tail, which enable it to collect the very ripest fruit. but there are foods in this forest that not even a spider monkey can get to. There's food for monkeys in every part of the rainforest, but some of it is very difficult to reach. I've only got up here into the canopy in a special crane, and I'm 120 feet above the ground. And here on these outermost twigs of the trees, the stems are so thin they couldn't possibly support a normal-sized monkey. And yet, there's a lot of food up here. Underneath these leaves, a cocoon, caterpillar, another leaf-eating insect. But there is one kind of monkey that can get up here and catch these things. It's a pygmy marmoset, the smallest monkey in the world, no bigger than my hand. Its feet are so small that they can't grasp anything but the thinnest twigs. Their needle-sharp claws prevent them from slipping. As it stalks its insects, it has to move with great stealth, lest any vibration should scare them off. But these hunters are so small that not even the thinnest branches tremble under their weight. All monkeys have forward-pointing eyes that enable them to judge distance. That's invaluable when moving around in the trees. But this tiny little hunter uses that ability also to pounce. But their staple diet is altogether more extraordinary. You might think that the lumps on this tree are a natural feature, but in fact they're wounds inflicted by pygmy marmosets that come to this tree trunk every day. It's eating gum, which it's forced the tree to produce by gnawing its bark. And what's more, it's making sure that there's going to be gum tomorrow, because it's also reopening the wounds that the tree has healed up. The marmosets keep opening these wounds, and the tree keeps closing them, until so much scar tissue builds up that circular mounds appear. And generations of pygmy marmosets have done that on this particular tree, resulting in these huge columns of lumps running right up the trunk. A well-managed gum tree is a huge asset for a group of marmosets, and that makes it a tempting target for thieves. And the rival group is preparing to invade. The intruders charge, and the owners flee, leaving their precious gum undefended. While the invaders steal the gum, the displaced residents start scent marking in the trees nearby. This seems to reinforce the bonds between them and stiffen their resolve to mount a counterattack. It works. The whole team together on their tree. But you can share a food resource that is cropped by others without having a face-to-face confrontation. You might think that when the sun goes down, all monkeys would be settling down to sleep, and that's almost true, but not quite. There's only one monkey in the world that collects its food at night. And precisely because it's nocturnal, it's very seldom seen and still little known. But there's a family of them living in this tree behind me. They're Duraculis. They're also known, for obvious reasons, as owl monkeys. Their eyes may be huge, but in fact their night vision is not particularly good, which suggests that their not-so-distant ancestors lived by day, and that Duraculis only became nocturnal comparatively recently. During the day, the nectar-rich flowers on which they feed are guarded aggressively by other monkeys. By coming out only at night, Duraculis avoid having to fight for a share and can feed in peace. Day breaks. The Duraculis retire, and a new set of fruit and nectar-feeding monkey awake. Tamarins set off to collect their share. But this forest is not rich in such food, and even though tamarins live in small groups, finding all they need takes a lot of time. The female always produces twins, which travel with the family as they search. But she has two male partners, and she uses her tongue to signal that it's time that one of them took over the twins. Both are eager to do so, for both mated with her, and so each has cause to regard the babies as his. But the twins have other ideas. They want to stay with Mum. She gets rid of them at last, and it's important that she does so. She has to provide them with milk, so she must eat much more than usual, and she would find that difficult if she were burdened by her babies all the time. The situation is made harder because there are other kinds of tamarins here as well. This is one of them, a saddleback tamarin. Monkeys usually guard their food ferociously, but these two kinds of tamarin often feed side by side. And when one leaves, the other follows. The emperors go first, and the saddlebacks with their shorter, stumpier legs try hard to keep up. The travelling party shares a quick refuel. Both kinds of tamarin, being small and energetic, need frequent snacks. They share another thing too. They have a common enemy. They give alarm calls that both species understand. A tyra, a kind of giant weasel. Not the most dangerous predator in this forest, but deadly to a bite-sized monkey. It's certainly safer to travel in groups, but having to share food is a very high price to pay for a warning system. There is, however, another rather more subtle advantage. Each flower needs time to refill its reservoir of nectar after a visitor has drunk from it. If either kind of tamarin foraged separately, they might well make a long and hazardous journey only to reach a tree that had recently been emptied by the other. That would be disastrous for an animal that has to feed so regularly. It's far better for tamarins to travel together and then share the food when they arrive. Howler monkeys, 10 times the size of a tamarin. They also eat flowers, given the chance, but these are not always available. In tropical forest, at least leaves can be found all year round, and howler monkeys specialize on these. The best leaves are up in the canopy, so that's the best place to go if you want to watch howlers close up. Leaves are not all the same. Some are poisonous, even to a howler monkey, and even among those that are edible, some are nicer than others. But once again, that monkey ability to see in colour is a great help. These red ones are young and succulent and would be very good to eat if they weren't protected by poisons. These mature ones are green and the poison in them has faded, but they're fibrous and woody and not very good to eat. What a leaf eater wants is something in between, something like this. Imagine how difficult it would be to pick the right one if you didn't have colour vision. Even the best leaves are not easy to digest, so although howlers spend a relatively short time collecting their food, they spend a long time digesting it. In fact, they spend half of every day just lying around, like cows chewing the cud. Even after all that digestion, leaves are not very nutritious. So howlers can't afford to waste energy chasing away rivals from the treetops. They use a rather more labour-saving way of doing that. Howlers have a specially enlarged bone in the throat, the hyoid, that enables them to make this extraordinary song. It's one of the loudest noises made by any animal, and the whole family joins in almost every evening. They can work themselves up into quite a frenzy, but since neither they nor their rivals actually move anywhere, it's very hard to say who's winning. It may be that this howling serves to strengthen family solidarity and deter intruders. That may sound a bit like a howler monkey, but I've now left South America and I'm in Africa, and that's the howler's African equivalent, the black and white colobus. As in South America, many different kinds of monkeys are able to share the same forest because they find their food in slightly different ways. Red colobus have a special stomach that allows them to eat unripe fruit and leaves, whereas sooty mangabes, like saki monkeys, have extremely powerful jaws that can break open really tough foods. The rest of the monkeys here are more general in their diet, a bit like capuchins, and they belong to a group called the guenons. All guenons eat fruit and insects, but each looks for them at its own level in the forest. There are 17 different kinds of guenon in Africa. They all have similar shaped bodies, but each has its own distinctive colours and patterns that serve as social signals, allowing them to recognize friends and rivals at a glance. They're the most colourful group of monkeys in the world. But colour signals are not a good way of sending urgent messages in places where the visibility is poor, and that's certainly the case here in the Thai forests in West Africa. Failing to spot another monkey is one thing, but if you miss a warning of danger, the consequences could be fatal. So, how do monkeys keep out of harm's way? I'm travelling with one of the most extraordinary anti-predator alliances in the world. Around me is a troop of sooty mangabes and mongooses. They are keeping an eye out for danger on the ground. And in the branches above me, there are at least 5 or 6 other species of monkey, all ready to detect a threat from the sky or from within the canopy. In this alliance, monkeys of many kinds travel side by side. It's a huge safety network that extends from the canopy right down to the forest floor. With so many pairs of eyes at every level in the forest, someone is almost certain to spot a threat, no matter where it comes from. There's little squabbling over food between different species because each finds it in a different way. Visibility is so poor here that the monkeys communicate almost entirely by sound. Unlike visual signs, a sound reaches every monkey in a split second. It's by far the best means of staying in contact or warning of danger. Hyena monkeys forage near the top of the canopy, so they're usually the first to spot danger from the air. Crowned eagles are never far away here, but if one comes too close, a specific alarm will be sounded, telling monkeys to drop for cover instantly. Danger above. Monkeys plummet down without even looking up. The alliance has saved another member. All these monkeys have different alarm calls for different predators. Watch this. leopard alarm called the Diana monkey. And that totally different one is the spot nose. But the important point is that all species of monkeys in the alliance recognize what another's call and know the nature of the enemy. And that's important because each predator requires its own particular response. All these monkeys now know that there's a leopard around, and you might think therefore that they would flee, but they don't. They're advancing towards it, and that's because the leopard is an ambush predator, and once it's been spotted, it usually gives up and goes away. Monkeys are drawn by the call from a large area. They even drop lower and closer so that they can keep the cat in full view. And here they will stay, on maximum alert, until the leopard finally gives up and leaves them in peace. The ancient city of Polonnaruwa in Sri Lanka. The civilization that built it 1,000 years ago has long since crumbled. But one society that lived here then is still here now and thriving. Tope macaques have walked these walls for many centuries, but it's only in the last few decades that we've started to understand their complex society. This is one of the most studied monkey groups of all time. For the past 30 years, their trials and tribulations have been recorded in detail, and that has given us remarkable insight into their private lives. These youngsters are playing as equals, but they have very different futures ahead of them. There's a ruthless class system in monkey society, and those lucky enough to be born into high-ranking families have a massive head start in life. Imelda is one of them. She is high-born. Others have been feasting on berries, but she's arrived too late on the scene to get any. All the berries are stashed away in the cheek pouches of others. Imelda spots Poppin. She's far larger and older than Imelda, but she is from a lower-ranking family, and that entitles Imelda to take anything of Poppin's that she wants, including the food right out of her mouth. Poppin makes it as hard for Imelda as she dare, but if she resists too strongly, she risks a beating from the rest of the troop. In monkey society, it helps to be high-born, but it also helps to be intelligent, and that is particularly apparent during the mating season. Tope macaques try to attract one another's attention by fluttering their mauve eyelids and flashing their teeth. But although there are willing males everywhere you look, there is a shortage of females ready to mate. Females are only fertile for a few weeks in the year, and during this short period, of course, lots of males want to mate with them, but hierarchy does not allow that. This male in front of me, after years of political manoeuvring and a good deal of muscle, has become alpha male, and he has first pick, but needless to say, there are always some young males who try to beat the system. Booster has a lesser rank, and that prevents him from openly mating with a fertile female. His best chance is a secret liaison. But the alpha male has recruited many allies, and these males will stop any female who tries to sneak away, and reprimand her if necessary. This security team allows the alpha to concentrate on the privileges of his position. But Rooster's chance has come. The alpha male's allies don't have eyes in the backs of their heads, and females, like Shanty here, see Booster as a future alpha. Allowing him to father their children could be a shrewd investment. First, she needs to attract Booster's attention. Shanty is flirting. Her glances are subtle because she doesn't want to get caught, but they're unmistakable if you know what you're looking for. And Booster certainly does. He needs to signal his intentions to Shanty, but be able to break off and feign disinterest should the alpha male look in his direction. But the alpha has other females to attend to, and his allies are nowhere to be seen. Shanty gives Booster the eye. They must be discreet and quick. Shanty's absence will soon be noticed. If Booster does take over the troop, he may well look favourably on Shanty's young. They might, after all, be his. A big brain certainly helps you to take advantage of others, and the larger the group you live in, the bigger your brain needs to be. But it was a dramatic change to the Earth itself that allowed monkeys to climb up to the next rung of the social ladder. 10 million years ago, the climate of the world changed. Many places became much drier. The rainforests shrank and were replaced by scrub and open grassland. But there was a lot to eat out in this new kind of country, and some of the monkeys came down from the branches and went out to find it in the open. The first monkeys to walk out here would have found some familiar foods, flowers and seasonal berries. But today baboons collect all kinds of other things as well. Bulbs, cactus, even rabbits. The grasslands are a great place for an opportunist, and baboons use their nimble fingers and large brains to collect an extraordinary variety of foods. Insect grubs can be picked up from the edge of a soda lake in Kenya's Rift Valley. Flamingos gather here in vast numbers and generate a rich layer of compost that contains plenty of food for those patient enough to pick through it. But a few baboons have become more ambitious. troop of baboons catch flamingos. It's just 5 years ago that the first of them discovered this new food and worked out how to get it. But the skill has spread quickly, and now the whole troop are dedicated flamingo hunters. Life in the open has its disadvantages too. There are more big predators around, so baboons protect themselves by assembling in large groups. As among macaques, living in big groups causes social problems. And here there's an even more complex social structure within which males compete for females. When a female becomes sexually available, her bottom swells and turns bright pink. All the males can read the message, but she only offers herself to males that have looked after her during the rest of the year. This male is attempting to join the troop, but it may be some time before he can father any offspring. First, he has to learn the social order in this complex community, and a good way to start is to befriend one of the senior females. The ledge can get very crowded, and the presence of the alpha male is intimidating. Even deciding where to sit is a political decision. The new male inevitably invades the personal space of others. Tempers flare. Life for a new arrival can be very stressful. Established males rely on a network of allies for support. The most successful of them invested heavily in such social relationships, but knowing who to build them with takes a lot of intelligence. Grooming is a good way to maintain these friendships. Looking after babies will also score you points. Child caring brings another benefit. Babies are protected in baboon society, so no one will hit you if you're carrying one. That allows smart baboons to use infants like shields when they feel threatened. It takes a lot of time and brain power to rise to the top in a large group. It's easy to imagine how a big brain could help you thrive in baboon society, but if it's a case that social complexity is the driving force behind the growth of the primate brain, then it should be that brain size in primates corresponds closely to group size. This is the skull of a baboon, and this lump of plasticine represents a brain which the skull once contained. This represents the brain of a bush baby. It's essentially a solitary animal, but even allowing for its small body size, its brain is tiny. This, slightly larger, is the brain of a colobus. Group size, 15. This, bigger still, a guenon. Group size, 25. And back to our baboon, group size, 50. In fact, the relationship is so close that were you to give a skull to a researcher who worked with monkeys, even though they didn't know what kind of monkey it belonged to, they would be able to accurately predict the size of group in which it lived. 500 miles away, in the highlands of Ethiopia, live the largest monkey groups of all. Geladas, the world's only grazing monkeys. There's a lot of grass up here, and so geladas flourish and gather into enormous herds. They don't have nipping teeth like sheep or rabbits, so they have to collect their grass by hand. This is done best by sitting down, and geladas spend much of their lives shuffling along on their backsides. Because they're sitting down for so much of the time, their sexual displays have moved to their chests, where other geladas can see them. These give an instant indication of strength and virility and allow individuals to assess each other's status at a glance, so avoiding unnecessary confrontations. Within these herds are smaller groups, like those formed by other monkeys. Related females constitute the core, with a male harem leader who watches over them. And he has to be very vigilant. A pack of bachelor males with one goal in mind: to displace the holder of a harem. The bachelors avoid males with the brightest chests. They are in their prime and will have the full support of their family. But less impressive males will have to prove their worth in battle. A lip flip from one of the bachelors is a threat. Flip answers flip. There's going to be trouble. These fights are largely for show and rarely result in injury, but they do waste valuable grazing time. Eating grass is very time-consuming and also occupies your hands, which makes it very hard to find enough time for grooming. So geladas maintain their friendships in another way. They chatter to one another. These noises are, in effect, vocal grooming, and enable geladas to communicate with many individuals at the same time. And this is the secret of their ability to live in huge groups. Their continuous chatter sounds like a language, but we have no idea what sort of information they're exchanging. One thing, however, is likely. It was the need to communicate detailed social information between many individuals that led to the evolution of language in our own species. So, although monkeys living in the treetops have rich and varied lives, it's the ones that came down to the ground and formed large groups that have the most complex and communicative societies of all. A fact not without significance for our own ancestry.